there is a certain allure to the life of a nomad, traveling from place to place, carrying only what you need, and tending and caring to your family and livestock. Usually, most people who live this lifestyle live within the vast steppe, as it is an open and flat land that is perfect for most mounts like horses. But the vast mountain range of Neodor are far from flat, and are terrible conditions for traversing on land. But the nomads of this land do not suffer from such a problem, as their mounts are no measly horses, but proud and powerful dragons. In fact, all people who live within the mountain range travel and trade with dragons, but the nomadic tribes are the ones truly in control of the region, as they usually conquer the lesser non-travelling villages, turning them into tributaries. Things like this are actually quite common for nomadic peoples. See, contrary to what most people actually think, the life of a nomad can be very wealthy if you're successful. They travel the land on their mounts, forcing tribes and villages to hand over tributes of immense wealth and value. Then they travel to lands in need of them, and sell them for even more, going back to those lands to collect even more tribute afterwards, in an endless cycle of trade and wealth. And it can actually be quite easy for them to conquer these tribes due to the lifestyle of a nomad. See, in settled society, most people specialise. Sure, you have your fighters, but some are farmers, and some people are merchants, and any other profession you can think of. But a nomad needs to be a hunter, herder, and warrior, all in one, making them much stronger people on average. Of course, these conflicts and conquerings happened long ago, during the Age of Madness, so all the settled and nomadic people now have a loyal master and servant relationship, and they do genuinely view each other with kindness, and as kin, as generations of working together eventually fades all hostilities, if treated fairly. This symbiotic relationship between the two government systems has proven to be very efficient, as the settled people don't need to worry about combat and they can focus on their craft, and the nomads and warriors can focus on their mounts and defense and nothing else, turning it into a sort of caste system over time. But those born into one yet feel like they belong in another can easily move. It doesn't only allow social mobility, it almost encourages it. It's what's led to the people of Naerdor remaining independent among greater neighbouring powers, such as the Skeld, as the kings don't need to worry about governing their tribes, as they govern themselves. They also feed, care, and pay tribute to the nomadic warriors, allowing both of them to fully focus on their own lifestyles. I should also mention the exceptions to the system and the most famous inhabitants of all of Naerdor. I speak of the Acolytes, or more commonly known as Phantoms, who are the only settled people within these lands that do not bow to another. But they do commonly work together, as their services are something that everyone needs. This makes the land split into three systems: the settled, specialized villages, the nomadic, warlike kingdoms, and the many phantom cults within the temples underground. But enough about their government systems for now. I want to talk more about the culture of these lands. For clarity's sake, I will specify that I'm talking about the land as a whole. All tribes will have their own exceptions and beliefs, including the Phantoms, and I've also talked about the Phantoms in more detail before, so I'll try not to focus on them too much. I'll start with the religion, as they all do follow the same dragon pantheon of gods like most of the continent, but they have one in which they focus on the most. See, most people of Naerdor worship Mjol, the sun god, above all others. While they all hold reverence to all the gods, they pray to the sun on a daily basis. It's so common, in fact, that most people I have met from these lands tend to mention it constantly in all conversations, and they also tend to smell a little of incense. They are a pious yet humble people. They are not much of the converting type, and very much live and let live with all nearby peoples. Well, most of them do at least. They also have some interesting spiritual beliefs too. All of this applies to the Phantoms too, so listen up if you care for them. See, they believe that the world we live in is actually split into two: the physical and the spiritual. We reside within the physical one for most of our time, but through practice, meditation, and focus, we can temporarily enter said spiritual world. There is some truth to this, as some people of Neodor who are mystics are able to phase out of this world in a strange way. Most of them tend to use it as a form of meditation, with the only main exception being the phantoms, who will use it to sneak into the shadows before and after striking. This is what they actually do when most think they turn invisible, by the way. They are entering a trance that makes a mystical shroud take them into the spirit world for a moment. They are still there, and you can perceive them, but only if you focus. This land is also known for its master craftsmen. See, generations of specialization has made them the best they can be, and since many different tribes serve the same ruler, they demand them to specialize more and more over the years. So some villages focus on only making weapons, and some just armor. I know of one tribe that focuses purely on making jewelry, and their work is so good in fact, that some Skaldian nobles only wear their jewelry, as it is the best in the land that money can buy. It also leads to their equipment being some of the best. Their armor is famous for both its style and strength. They are the best equipped out of all the nations of this land, given even some of the best Skaldian smiths a run for their money when it comes to body armor and weapons. Their builders are also incredibly fantastic, by the way, as they build some of the most amazing structures completely underground, beneath the very mountain range. I have seen a massive underground farming complex, with waterfalls feeding into huge artificial crop fields. My words alone do not give it justice, just know that it is very efficient and beautiful to behold. This land is also known as the home of a dragon species known as the night snaggers. It is mostly true, as almost all the clades of this genus live within this land, but it is not actually their homeland. Their true origin is actually far to the north, beyond the explored lands, so we can't say much about it, nor what caused the exodus that made them move south to the mountain range, sadly. But the land is perfect for them, so in many ways this is their home now. It's also no surprise that all of the people of Naerdor ride night snaggers. They were the first species to ever be tamed, and the people of Naerdor were the first to ever tame dragons. Something that happened so long ago that it is an integral part of their culture, even more so than how Einwings are to the Skeld. I'd like to talk about one of the tribes for a moment, one of the more famous ones who sadly died out a long time ago. Not the hermits, who are the ancestors to most of these lands, including the phantoms, but the ones who were around at about the same time, the Arids. Some claim that they were actually the first to truly tame dragons. Something I disagree with, I'll have to add as a personal note, but, you know, it's evidence and all that. But they were highly advanced for their time, you cannot deny this. Building many temples and castles that still stand to this day, some of the most beautiful monuments throughout the land, ancient wonders that some people can't even build today. Their most famous one, actually, sits on the border between the Skeld and the Orguni, the Eldrune Sanctuary. We don't truly know what its purpose was, but the old statues and carvings along all the walls make me believe that it must have been a holy site of some sort. But it's not dedicated to the sun god. There are lots of implying elements to some form of deities, but none to the old symbols that were used for Mjolnir. They might have held a different god above him, or perhaps they had a different religion entirely, as there are no familiar themes between the old hermit descriptions that we see. Regardless, they are sadly no longer with us. They died off a long time ago, and we don't know how or even why. They almost just vanished suddenly, just after the Eventide. We know that they were not involved in the Eventide, nor were they victims of it like the hermits were. Perhaps another event happened at about the same time and was overshadowed by it, so it was forgotten. Or perhaps the Eldrune Sanctuary was dedicated to something darker, and might have played a part in their end. But we will never know, it seems. I find the respect all people of Neodor have for each other and foreigners quite admirable. But they are not a truly peaceful people. Well, no one should be seen as a united cultural peoples. Everything has its exceptions and outliers, and they are no different. In fact, their lands are one of the more diverse, where you will find all sorts of tribes and different peoples. They have their own looks, styles, and beliefs, their own cultures. Some are sadly being forgotten over time as their numbers are quite scarce. I would like to add, as a finishing note, traversing these lands without a dragon is a nightmare. From experience, I can say that it's near impossible if you do it without one. So if you do go there, please have an escort. In fact, I advise you hire a local nomad, as they do tend to give out their services as mercenaries. In fact, some of the more powerful mercenaries often get mistaken for phantoms because their armor is quite similar, something in which they probably indulge, as they're more likely to pay more if they think you're a phantom. It is a beautiful land though, home to some magnificent views and gorgeous peaks, plenty of small valleys filled with unique plant life that has all sorts of elaborate colours. I would put it on your bucket list if you've yet to go there already. Thank you for listening to my tales. I am the Ashspawn. Feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscribe. It would really mean a lot to me. But, till next we meet, fellow traveller, have a good day.